they think about you. Here's what 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 they think about. Here's what they think. Here's what they think about. Here's what they think about. Here's what they think about. Here's what they think about.
It doesn't take any great genius to understand that what was real in 1956 can hardly be remembered in the gross commercial climate of intercollegiate athletics today. And I attribute that to the neo-plantation mentality that exists on the campuses of our country and in the conference offices and in the NCAA, that the rewards belong to the overseers and the supervisors.
Just watched the HBO documentary Student Athlete, or better yet, student does not equal athlete. You get to an institution, football, baseball, basketball, track, volleyball, swimming, gymnastics, whatever it is, you don't own your likeness. You can't get compensated for making your own t-shirt. You're not going to be able to sign autographs and be compensated for that. If you're a struggling student athlete, a red shirt, a walk-on, not on scholarship, if a family friend decided to pay your rent just out of the kindness of their heart and being spiritual and faithful behind their practices, you can't do that either. I would encourage all of y'all listening to this, sports parents, students, young coaches, student athletes listening to this, check out the documentary on HBO.com, Student Athlete, or like I said before, student does not equal athlete. You walking into a machine. I'm not knocking a machine. I just think that this is a place where we look at things objectively. We look at the truth, and you have to look at the truth in the matter, because oftentimes I think the stat is close to over 90,000 athletes alone play football and basketball at the NCAA level, and only about 300 to 310 of those athletes, these aren't exact facts, but those are, I'm very close to the numbers. Out of 90-something thousand odd athletes, about 300 to 310 will actually go through the NFL draft, go through the NBA draft, and actually get signed by a team. So you got to know what you're going to school for. You got to know if that school is the right fit. What's going to happen to me if I get injured at that school? What's going to happen to me if there's a coaching change? Sometimes it might be better to go to a Division II school. It might be better to go to a Division III school. It might be better to go to an NAIA school where the focus is on education first and then sports. But I hope you at least take heed to what I'm saying. Check out this documentary. I don't get paid for this. I think it's worthy because of the knowledge in there. It's worthy because of the information in there. And it's worthy because of the education that's in there. In today's episode, I have a gentleman coming on that's been considered the godfather of Oakland youth basketball. He's been considered the godfather of Oakland AAU basketball. Now, these are words that would never come out of his mouth. This is what the people that I know and their words count say about this man. And today we're going to discuss growing up in Oakland on the basketball court. This is another gentleman that I have coming on that had a relationship with my co-host Leland Johnson when he was playing basketball in junior college and in the Oakland area. This gentleman that I have coming on, he's been coaching the Oakland Rebels AAU organization for the last 15 years. We're going to discuss his journey into coaching AAU basketball. He's going to explain the importance of strength training in AAU. And I think at the end of the day, we're going to have to do another episode because he's going to have to explain and tell us about his D1 and NBA athletes and the rest of the people that's came through his program. And we'll also further get into the importance of young athletes having mentors. But I have Ryant Diew coming on. All I can say is this is a killer episode. If you're looking for the truth, if you're looking for some objective conversation as a sports parent, especially if you have kids or student athletes that's playing youth or AAU basketball and you're trying to gauge where their levels are, this is a must listen for you. If you're a football athlete, a track and field athlete, it doesn't matter what sports you play. If you're looking for some jewels, some keys, or just a motivational story to listen to, this is the episode you want to listen to. This is the episode you want to listen to right now. Nevertheless, stay tuned. We're going to get into today's episode.
Well, but basically, growing up in Oakland, the basketball court was pretty tough. You had to have tough skin. Because if you didn't, man, your ego would get bruised real easily. You know, you had a lot of people that wasn't shy about letting you know if your game wasn't up to par. You know, they would go, you know, hey, if you dropping passes and missing two shots, they looking at you, you know. So it was just it was a tough place to grow up playing, but in retrospect, it made you tougher, you know, because I remember just my upbringing. You know, I was kind of what they call a late bloomer, but I would play when I started getting the fever. Was probably around 7th grade, and I would go in the summertime. I would go up to Havens Court, my junior high school, and it would be a bunch of adults playing, young adults playing, and it would be some of the top high school players playing at that time too. You know, players that I looked up to, were Lathan Wilson and Lou Woolridge, and you know, man, it was just some cats that was just Jerry Day. Yeah. You know, Raymond Langford. I was up there, just these cats was like God to me, you know, and I was just a little dude. And, you know, just watching them play, sitting on the side, I would call my winners. You know, a lot of times when you're a little guy, you know, you just trying to get in, you know, and they basically was trying to smash on you, you know, and, you know, so they wouldn't let you just have winners. They basically try to smash your game. And then say, all right, after you argue, I guess you make a good little argument, they'll just let you play with the other 4 that they pick, you know. Right. And you know, which I didn't care anyway. I just wanted to get on the court, man. But just that, you know, beginning for me was, I think, is what made me the player I was, because, I mean, just being a little guy out on the court with these players, they wasn't taking it easy on you. You know what I mean? Because your bucket, the games went to, I don't know, you know, I can't really remember, but, you know, just say the game goes to 7, you know, your little bucket, and they ain't going to let you score, you know. So if you got 1 or 2 buckets on those dudes, man, you was doing something. Mm-hmm. And so, man, just it was just a tough place to grow up, man, because everybody was good, man. I mean, like, some of my best lessons, you know, things that I were taught on the court was learned by guys who didn't even play high school basketball. Right. You know, they played baseball, they might have played football, but they were good in basketball. Yeah. And, you know, actually, one story, and I always tell my kids this, one guy in my neighborhood, his name was Keith Bennett. I don't know if you remember Keith Bennett. You know, a baseball player, played at Arizona State with Barry Bonds, played with Cleveland Indians, got as far as AAA before, you know, drugs kind of, you know, he kind of fell victim to drugs. But in any event, I remember one day I lived in a village, in the projects, right? And I had a little crate on top of my building, and I would just play. And I thought I was getting pretty good. And so one day he came and you know, played with me. And Keith was a couple of years older than me, and we played a one-on-one. And I just remember him, man, just man, dogging me, man. It was like, I mean, man, it was just like, and all I can remember was, you can't go left. You can't go left. And every time I was trying to fake to the left and go back right, he was just slapping it out here. You can't go left. You can't go. Man, it was like, man, I'm sitting up there, snot running down. Man, he just had no mercy. And I just remember, man, him saying, "You can't go left, man." Changed everything in my game to the point. After that day, everything I did was to the left. To the point I didn't even realize it until I got to college, and I remember teams would say, "He only goes left." And I would just kind of laugh and say, "Well, I'm right-handed." You know what I mean? Like, so I mean, I worked on it so much to where I overcompensated to where my left was my strength. But those are some of the lessons that, I learned through the years from some of the older guys in Oakland, man. It was truly a blessing to grow up in that period, because I don't think I would have became as good of a basketball player if I hadn't, grown up in Oakland during that time.
Yeah, it was a great era. We had a couple of Hall of Famers during that time that used to just play ball with us at the EOYDC.
Yeah.
You remember those, dude?
Well, man, man, those were some tough games, man.
Yeah.
And the funny thing about Oakland, man, is that later on, me being in junior college, averaging 27 a game and going to UOP and coming to Cal State Hayward, and breaking the scoring records there. When I came home to the EYDC and played, or Rainbow Center, man, I wasn't even like I'm a star in college, but I wasn't even the best dude in the gym.
It would happen.
It's that by the name of Sammy Allen, man, that to this day, and I tell everybody, man, I put it on Facebook, when it comes to my playing career, and I can honestly say this, man, I didn't care if they're an NBA player or not. There wasn't nobody that I felt stopped me. You know what I mean? Like you could always count on 20, 25, 30 points. I can't say anybody that really caused me any problems except Sammy Allen.
You know what he you know what he did to me? Well, he didn't do it to me, but this is what he did for me. I would always see Sammy Allen. I would be like, his name was Dirty Sam.
Dirty Sam.
Because he used to get grimy. It wasn't because he was a dirty, it was because he used to get grimy, right? So one day, I used to always see Sam, and he would always see me. And, I was a leaper, so, he would have his little comments about my game, and I wouldn't have none about his, because he could go left, right, he could play shoot. So one day, he got me up at this elementary school off on Fruitvale, like off of Fruitvale. It's coming back by the Safeway, by the old Safeway building in the 50s somewhere.
Is it Bret Hart?
It was off of East 14th.
Okay.
What's the school? You know what I'm talking about?
It's either Lockwood or
not Lockwood.
Or
you coming back after seminary. You coming back.
You're talking about what we used to play on the little court to be dunking on?
Yeah. And they got some big courts also.
Yeah. I know. I can't think of it either. But
I'm sitting out there hooping. And who happens to walk up? Sammy Allen, right? Dude, that was my day of reckoning. I was just getting, because I just talked to you about going to Alameda. And I know if I didn't really want to go there or not. And we had a series of one-on-one games over there. And I got Sammy Allen's respect, bro. Up to dude, you're gonna trip on this. I seen Sammy Allen probably about 10 years ago up here in the Northwest.
Wow.
It probably was a little bit more, 10 or 15. I was still playing football. And he was playing hoop.
Wow, yeah.
That was
that's
a dude.
High praise.
Yeah, he let me know, okay, you can go to Alameda and you could probably do something. It was that day I played against him.
Man, he was like, I mean, to this day, it's funny that you bring him up, because I got into it with Anthony McCready on Facebook, and he was basically, I don't know, Ant was just throwing something out there just to get my response. but Anthony basically was saying that, you know, I didn't really get off in junior high school and high school. That I got better at the Rainbow Center. I said, well, that's kind of not the case. By my senior year, I was actually pretty good. Alamano.
Yeah, you was balling. You was balling at Fremont.
Yeah, you know, Alamano kind of held me back, you know, and I said, to be real, you know, the only cat that I could tell you that I couldn't do, I was off thumbs with, was Sammy Allen.
Mm-hmm.
He just knew where my release points was. I just couldn't get a shot off. With this, to the point, I'd be like, man, get away from me, man. Get away.
Hey, the only reason why I was able to do my thing because I could jump. And he could jump too.
You're a different type of player than I was, so he just figured me out.
But it would wear you the fuck out, bro. Yeah. It was like those. If you ask me, you know, I love the battle we had, but if you ask me, would you go back every week and do that? I'd say, I don't know. Because that shit.
Hey, I wanted to ask you, Ryan, you know, how did you and Leland meet? How did that transpire?
You know what, man, it's a trip because I'm so old. But you know what, I pretty much feel like I think that we met like just playing at Havens Court. You know, playing at Havens Court, and I remember. Because Leland used to just be like, you know, I didn't really think he was really into basketball too much. You know what I mean? Right. He'd be on that skateboard all the time. You know?
He was on the skateboard?
Yeah, he used to ride a skateboard. I think that's you know, him.
You didn't tell me that part.
Because it became like, I don't know, like cats start figuring out like that must be how you get hops. Because him and Marcus Cotton used to ride skateboards and both of them had stupid hops. So it was like, that's how you get hops.
Marcus, hey, by the way, Marcus Cotton was one of those dudes, man. He was a hooper. What Dude was talking about, he was a hooper, but Deshaun, he was 6'5", about 230, and he went to USC.
Yeah, became All-American.
Yeah, All-American at USC, and actually went to play for the Atlanta Falcons with Andre Bruce, and he was a bad boy.
Yeah,
bad boy.
Yeah, you know. So, but I remember we was playing a 21, and Leland was pretty good. I was like, man, you should play. You know, and I always was. Every time I saw him, I was pretty impressed with him. I was like, this guy can play a little bit, you know, and so. I would always try to convince him to play, you know, because he was good. I thought he was nice, and I didn't know that he, you know, like refined his game as well as he did until I saw you play against the College Alameda when you were at Los Madonnas. And you had 38. And I was, man, I'm sitting there with my eyes. I mean, man, my mouth was just wide open, man, because the scoring display he put on, man, it was just beautiful, man.
But you was totally responsible for that, bro, because if I never had talked to you, I would have never even went to Los Madonnas. After you went and set records at Alameda, you know, I set out a year and then I went to Alameda and I was honestly, my attitude was, I'm going to continue what my dog do continue. You may not know that, dog, but that's where I was. And I was like, you talking about shooter?
Today's episode is brought to you by Bay Area company Millennium Edge Apparel, an athletic apparel company that manufactures clothing for basketball, golf, soccer, regular workouts, and even restaurant staff members. To learn more, visit millenniumedgeapparel.com. And now, back to the show.
You talking about shooter, bro?
Thank you, man.
Kids don't shoot like this, dudes. I mean, dudes nowadays, they call themselves shooters, and I mean, in competition. This dude would go on 5-6 bucket runs. 5-6 bucket runs. He was today's player back then.
One thing I like about what y'all talking about, and you mentioned it earlier, Ryan, as far as guys, they get bruised egos, and I see it now. And Leland, I know you can speak to this in today's culture. You try to give constructive criticism, and then you get the bruised ego, or guys don't want to take that and figure out a way to get better. And then more importantly, put themselves in competitive situations to get better, where you realize you might not have action at winning today, but just go through the fight. And I think that seems to be the issue as far as like some people that I've seen, or groups or certain cultures or cities or towns where, you know, you got this whole trophy culture. Nobody wants to get knocked down. Nobody wants to get beat up, or for all practical intents and purposes, get their ass whooped on occasion. Could y'all speak to that?
Oh man, I can speak to that, you know, for real, man, because that is my philosophy as an AAU coach, right? I will not coach any AAU team if I'm not playing at the highest level, right? And so I guess since I started with this team, this you know, first of all, I've been coaching the Oakland Rebels for about 15 years, and I have just a plethora of talent, man. I just had just a bunch of guys, but I started over with with a lot of my coworkers and a lot of my friends' kids, and we had a pretty talented little team. Got them to be pretty good. We always, you know, I don't know if you're familiar with the AAU circuit, but you know, if you're a top team, they put you like in super pools, or you're in the invitational division. And we were, you know, always a highly ranked team. Well, I had a couple of parents on my team. They kids, just when we went national, the kids didn't perform, you know, and so I guess with today's parents, some of today's parents, it's like when your kid don't perform, it's like it hurts your ego or something. You know what I mean? And I don't understand that. You know what I mean? So my thing is, and this is my take, man, I want to play against the toughest competition, win or loss. I just want to see if my kids can compete, right? And a lot of people can't do that. And so this summer, I lost a few players. I lost a couple of players on my team. I got a 6'6" center that I lost. You know, I don't know if you know Leland. You might know his dad, Ali Lewis, used to play at Oakland High.
Oh yeah,
yeah, man. And you know, and I don't care if he's listening, man. But Ali was soft. You know what I mean? And he raising his son to be soft.
Right.
You know,
yeah,
and so his son is a talented kid, handles the ball, can shoot it.
Just don't have the mentality.
Everything, man, but he ain't got that ticker, you know, and he don't have a motor. And so he pulls him off my team to say that he wants him to play up. And I'm like, well, why would you play up when we play one of the toughest schedules in the country?
Right, he's not producing in that.
He's not even killing on this level. You know what I mean? Like, if you want to see, you know, where he is, you need to keep him with me because, man, if you play for me, you will know instantly how good your kid is, you know, because we playing against the toughest team. So this year, whether we had a decent year locally, but we didn't really have a good year nationally. And actually, a couple of my parents, man, who I thought were tough parents, man, was kind of having second thoughts, you know, coming to me saying, well, maybe we shouldn't play in this division, you know? And I'm like, what? Are you serious? So a lot of parents today, they don't subscribe to that, you know, opinion that you need to play against the toughest competition. They want to just win every game by 30, get your trophy, you know, and just everybody be happy. But to me, that's a losing proposition. You know,
losing formula.
And I look at, and the reason I say that is because when I look at like Division II or lower level AAU, and the parents are just as rabid and crazy, right? But the basketball is terrible, and those kids have no chance to get in scholarships.
Right.
No chance. And I liken it to the fact that, you know, when you're driving on the freeway and then you see a traffic, you know, you see a traffic jam and you like, damn, you know, you see an accident on the side, and then you drive about 12 miles and you know, and the traffic jam is just stuck. And you look on there and maybe 12 miles out, you're looking at those guys saying, damn, they don't even know. They don't even know. They don't even know what they're in for. They're going to be stuck in this shit. Well, I'm sorry for cousin, but no, stuck in this for a long time. And so I look at the lower level AAU the same way. Like, they don't even know that. They don't even have a chance. Like, they're just wasting their money. Because if you're not playing against the best competition, you don't even need to play, man.
Well, you know what, dude? I had a different approach, and I seen you I seen you a long time ago, and my little son was probably about in the 4th or 5th grade.
Yes.
Your son was probably in about the 6th or 7th, I think.
Yeah, I remember.
And we were at one of those big tournaments. It was then that I said to myself, I didn't want to be a part of all this. And what I used to do is I used to use AAU as a barometer. So what I would do is we would train. I kind of went to the European model of developing athletes, because I went to France in '97. I went to go play football in France. And so what I would do is I would go by, they had this one little place where hoopers were training. So I would go in there and just peep the game and just watch. And they would be in there just training all the time and not playing. And I was like, so when do they play? And dudes like, okay, they play on these days, but they train on these days, this day and this day. So when I said to myself, I said, when I get back to the States, I'm gonna use this model. And then I kept hearing it. I had some auditory tapes from this guy named Mr. Kelbeck, who was a coach with the San Antonio Spurs, and he kind of talked about, if you train, it should be 3 times as much training as it is playing. Like it should be 3 to 1. So I used that model, and what I would do is Jazz was good enough where kids would come home, and I would go to their tryouts, and I'd have just wear their ass out in the tryouts, right? And then had that dude go, hey, man, do you want to play? I want to play. And I go, I don't know. You know what I'm saying? And that was the part that I used that to say, I ain't paying you shit. You know what I'm saying? You're playing, but I'm not paying you shit, right? And what I would do is I would put them in those different situations until I got my own situation. And to be honest with you, I used the level 2. It was very important in his growth. But again, I did a lot of training. So when kids came home from their AAU trips, he would build his confidence up by knowing that he could play with these guys. But that's why we never went on the national level. And then it just got to the point where when he was in high school, it was what it was. You know what I'm saying? He was a kid that could take us to the championship, state championship, and other shit. He had a good career. So
wow, I think the key to that one was that you was doing a lot of training. You was working on the skill development, and you made sure that was tight. And of course, skills, that's gonna carry you more than anything,
right?
I mean, so there's multiple ways to do it. The way I choose to do it is, man, I'm throwing you in the fire. Just like I grew up playing in the fire, you play in the fire. You know what I mean? Yeah. And so, and my whole thing with the kids, I tell them, I say, yeah, it's tough, ain't it? And I don't have much sympathy because it was an up and down road for me.
Right.
I had plenty of days where I cried or I felt like, man, do I even want to do this? And I'm like, yeah, that's the journey, man.
One thing I wanted to speak to is when you were talking about the sports parents, and this is something Leland and I had been discussing. We interviewed a guy, Travis Doherty, and he wrote a book called The Lens, and he's talking about how parents put themselves in the mix where, like you said before, they might over-evaluate the kid or think the kid is better than he or she is, and then they have their own views. And I know you've experienced that. Leland has experienced that. So I think that you're right on in terms of if you're a sports parent listening, I think you as a sports parent, you got to have your son evaluated by somebody that's objective and not biased as far as what level they should be on, whether it's a level 1 or level 2 or level 3 and on the right team. And like you said, do they have the work ethic? Are they willing to do the other things like the training, being on the right team, being in a competitive situation? You know, me and Leland and I talk about this all the time. Sometimes the athlete won't go through adversity because the parent won't go through adversity. You know.
Yeah, man. You just gotta be willing to fail. You know, you can't succeed unless you fail. You got to know what failure is. You know, I mean, what made me become as good as I became is because I started my career off as a bench rider, you know, and I didn't like that, you know, and so I feel like if it's just easy for you playing lower level, you winning all these championships, and man, what I learned going through the second time around is that winning at the little kid level means absolutely nothing. It's just total. It's all development, man. And you know, and I didn't think that first. Now I know, you know, that man, it's just about getting your kid better, man. And that's what I did. You get to high school, you know, to be real, you know.
Let me ask you a question. What do you think about the parents that are holding their kids back? You know, just. What do you think?
What? To be honest on that, and you may be surprised, I'm not really against it. And the only reason I say that is because you know, as a parent, it's your job to do what's best for your child, right? And if you believe that helps your kid, then I'm all for it. Now, if you hold your kid back, I'm not gonna, you know, okay, you're doing it for school purposes, you know, because you want to hold him back to put him in a lower class. However, when it comes to competitiveness, AAU, he's going to play at the same level or up, you know.
Thank you.
I'm not going to play down in AAU so I can dominate, because now I'm allowing other kids to catch up with my son.
Right.
You know, that's only for school, for your class that you're in, you know. And so, you know, I'm not against it. Some of our greatest players from Oakland were you know, older kids. Jay Kidd, Leon Poe, you know, a lot of kids today in the NBA were, you know, holdbacks. You know, Andrew Wiggins, Andre Drummond, you know, Noel Nolens, you know, where they reclassed. And then they got so good that they just went right back to their original class. But it's a sign of the times now, man. I mean, everybody does it, you know. And unfortunately, in our area in Oakland, they don't play that game.
Right. I was because I have a partner up here that's from Oakland. He went to Skyline High School, and we'll discuss him off the air, but. He has a son that's pretty talented, and it's the same thing that you dealing with Al. You know what type of person Al was. I know what type of person this dude is, and you can see it the same mentality in his son. So what he did was he held his son back, and it had nothing to do with his education. It had everything to do with because he wanted to be the #1 player in the nation. That was his reasoning. And what I said to him was, okay, if that's what you want to be, then what you need to do is your habits need to change.
Exactly.
You need to get a workout regimen. You need to be doing something 5 days a week to work towards that goal. And all he's doing is playing.
But what grade is he in?
He
8th grade.
8th grade. They just put him back to the 8th grade. He would be in the 9th grade this year.
So he could be a #1 player as an 8th grader.
As an 8th grader.
Wow.
Does that make sense to you?
No. As an 8th grader. Now, if you went to a prep school in high school and you reclassified, you know, in high school to be the #1 player, okay, all right, you're in high school. But 8th grade, come on, man. He may
be the #1 8th grader in the nation.
Man,
I can speak to it because I know the brother started off training his son with Leland, and then he kind of got, you know, I trained the daughter, so he tried to bring the youngster over to the gym with me. And then so I called Lee, I'm like this dude don't get it. One, he's rude, he's disrespectful. but he just doesn't have the work ethic to even manage his own body weight, let alone work with some kettlebells or put some ankle weights on him.
Oh, he don't want to lift either?
No.
No.
Oh, man, he going to have problems.
He trains a lot, though. He's in the gym dribbling the basketball.
Man, hey, as you know, I'm sure you know, Leland, man, that strength training, takes your game, man, to another whole level, man. You know, absorbing contact, just having stamina, being quicker, your core is just strong. I mean, everything about it, man, it's a must. And if you're not willing to work on your body, man, I don't care who you are, you ain't gonna make it. If you were a talented kid, you're gonna be a bust.
You hear that, kids?
Work. Man,
that comes from the Godfather. Y'all hear that?
Man, my son, who was the little man, they used to call him like Jiminy the Cricket, right?
Yeah, I seen him.
The goggles, the littlest dude, you know.
He can play though.
Be in the corner and shoot, you know what I mean? And so he wasn't the most talented guy. I actually went to a St. Mary's game and saw, the Chris Brew, the Brew brothers, these other twins, the Lees. These kids are just dunking. I mean, just super athletic, and everything kept going back to all these kids are going to Anthony Eagleton, Coach Ant. He's a strength trainer out here, man. So I was like, I got to find out who this Coach Ant is, man. I took my son to him in the 9th grade, man. This dude took my son from an 80-pound weakling, to the point his senior year he was ripped. He actually grew a little bit too. He got to be about 6'3", but he was ripped. Where my son wound up going all state, all Northern California, and all East Bay.
The Sports Mastery Workbook was created for the student athlete and the parent to work through together. The Sports Mastery Workbook was created for the student athlete and the coach to work through together. It was created in a sense and in a way to bridge the gap in communication between these parties and build a successful relationship dynamic. To learn more, visit sportsmastery.com/workbook or check out the show notes page and click on the link.